In addition, good evening all. I'm Shasheena Rolle. As always, it's so great to have you with us. Shopping news: Grand Bahamas tourism product continues to struggle, but despite the financial challenges, one mega developer believes now is the time to invest in new ideas and to attract more business to our shores. The leader in the tourism sector believes partnership may be the way to go and is admonishing others to catch the new tourism vision and invest. Joan Davis-Roll has our top story.
It is one of the crown jewels of the Bahamas, which has helped to revolutionize the resort and tourism industries in this country. The Mega Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island. Atlantis executive George McIntonis was on Grand Bahama recently, where he announced a partnership between that Nassau-based resort and Grand Bahama.
What we do in Nassau, frankly, and what we've done over the last 20 years, in our view, is become part of the fabric of this country. When the country does well, we do well. When we do well, we know automatically the country does well. And we're not that territorial that we would sit there and think that the be-all and end-all has to be what happens on Paradise Island. I do commit, on behalf of my colleagues in the promotion boards in Nassau, that we will share every pertinent expertise item that we may have where it's appropriate for Grand Bahama with our colleagues here, and perhaps we just don't do enough of that. In fact, not perhaps, I know we don't. We just don't. We're separate islands, and I have that takeaway to go with. I wrote it down in block capitals. I realize this might be the industrial capital of the Bahamas, but there is a lot of money to be made in tourism. Some of us have figured it out. Some of us are trying to figure it out, and I think that's, you know, a sitting duck for this island.
McIntonis told investors from around the world of the tremendous economic impact that resort has had on this country's economy, employing more than 6,000 workers. He challenged local stakeholders to not only duplicate, but exceed their efforts.
We're a significant contributor to the Bahamian economy, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Why is it successful? Why is that project successful? Well, first of all, it's well thought out. That's critical for any development that's going to happen. Secondly, it's unique to anything else that would attempt to compete with it. We spent in the local market, just for locally supplied goods and services last year, about $132 million. And I said locally, I mean, anything we can buy locally, we do. For government, room taxes generated $49.5 million. Room taxes. Casino taxes, upwards of 10 million, over 10 million. License fees, departure taxes. The departure taxes from the country of the guests who stayed with us, and you know, I defer to the Minister of State on this, but if you took an average of about $20, is about $36 million. We spent $66.76 million last year on utilities. If you think you've got problems, I personally strongly support the Prime Minister's initiative for FP&L.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
Thank you, Joan. Well, today was decision day for thousands of hotel workers across the country. 3 teams were vying for the leadership of the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union. And tonight, Sabrina Brown tells us what some members on Grand Bahama had to say as they went to the polls.
As hotel workers seek to elect a new administration to govern their affairs, voter turnout was slow at the Workers' House up to noon.
So far, things have been pretty much smooth. We have about 340-something eligible voters, and so far, about 50 persons have voted. The numbers are less and have dwindled down simply because the closure of the resorts, certain resorts, which means we'll have less persons who are members of the union.
Hotel union members who we spoke with were excited about this day.
This is our chance now to make change. So I'm very happy to be a part of this, and we just hope for the best.
Only because the whole point was that here in the Bahamas, we've been down a little bit too long now. It's time for us to really take this in 2013.
We're just so here to make sure, select the right team.
Well, the significance of this day will be basically for the people.
Today is very significant as we have 3 teams running. Persons today will voice their opinion on who they feel is best to run the union, and the only thing that is for certain is that it would be who God wants it to be.
Although they may not all support the same team for leadership, one thing is certain, they all share the same concerns.
We need a contract. That's number one. And we need proper protection, and we just need some benefits.
Back pay, raise, Christmas bonus, turkey in hand, back to school, all those stuff that went best was here in the election many years ago as a president. We never had any of those things being taken from us. And by the grace of God, we're hoping that it come back to us.
The most important thing is our contracts. Contracts dealing with benefits for the staff, better working conditions, increases, and most of all our general contract that is supposed to be out in Nassau.
First, we got to get the contract negotiated. Then we have to bring this organization back as one. And we intend to bring back some things, back to school, hardship fund, insurance for the members, which they don't have.
Immediately, we have to address the fact that the contract is not registered. The union needs to get registered. There are a lot of issues that face the hotel staff as far as days working, the pension fund. There are so many things that were just, in other words, neglected over the past few years.
Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
And still on news from the union, after a long-standing dispute, the management of quality services and the industrial union are now engaged in intense discussions. Just last week, the Minister for Grand Bahama and the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs intervened during the intense dialogue. Tonight, the union leader is giving an update on how he plans to continue the fight for Bahamian workers in the industrial sector. After years of demonstrating and fighting for equality for the Bahamian workers of quality services, Lionel Morley says there has been some inroads for conciliations with management. He believes the union and the employers are finally striking a balance.
We have reached a tentative agreement with respect to the return of more than 95% of those workers that were terminated. We still have some headwinds ahead of us. We're approaching this thing quite cautious, but yet optimistic. We are still optimistic about resolving the rest of the issues one way or the other. We have some ongoing court battles that we anticipate will either be dealt with through the courts or allowing where calmer heads sit around the table.
He says so far dates have been set aside for the new industrial agreement, and he will ensure that Bahamians have a major role in this growing industry through training. He says this in turn will minimize the issuance of so many work permits.
Training is essential moving forward, and we have agreed with the ministers, honorable ministers, Mitchell in particularly, that any work permit that is granted to any expats, there have to be a Bahamian trainee attached to that work permit. But this was a policy not just now, this is a policy long before. But the problem is there's no check and balance. The proper check and balance mechanism that are supposed to be in place to ensure that Bahamians are being trained rather than just saying it with lip service.
Just last week, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, met with Quality Services and the union. A decision was made that 95% of the Bahamian workers who were terminated be brought back before March 1st. Morley says this is a decision he's pleased with.
The 95% of the person should be back in place. Like I said, we have some headwinds ahead of us where management are determined that they're not going to take back certain folks. The union object to that. But we can't, our main interest is to make sure that the welfare of the general union are served to the best of our ability.
In other news, former employees of the 52-week program are speaking out on what they call an injustice. They say after completing the program in November, they have yet to collect their unemployment benefit. Tonight, they are calling on the powers that be to intervene. They came to ZNS Northern Service for help because at this point they say they don't know what to do. After working on the 52-week program and having their NIB contributions deducted from their paychecks for a full year, the women contend that they are being given the runaround now that it is time to collect what is owed to them.
We were told that we should come to the Ministry of Grand Bahama and fill out some applications that they already had. And from there, they were going to sign up for unemployment, and they was going to take the matters from there. But from then to now, we have just been running around with like chicken without a head.
But in order to collect unemployment, there has to be a total of 52 contributions. However, NIB gave them a printout proving that for Sandra Alton, only 21 payments were made in 2011 and 8 in 2012. When it comes to Bianca Henfield, there were 8 payments to National Insurance in 2011 and 35 in 2012, despite the fact that they say their contributions were deducted for the entire year.
If they know that at the end of the program that we couldn't claim national insurance, why take it out? Then we as adults would know we have nothing to claim. Me personally, I live in a house where there is no one working. College student, who do you go to?
So what happened with the money that was being deducted from their paychecks? Alton and Henfield say they went to the Ministry for Grand Bahama in search of answers, but they couldn't get any.
We went to people to Ministry for Grand Bahama who were very rude. Some wasn't, but some were very rude. Back and forth, and quite frankly, I'm tired of it.
I have to pay rent, light, cable, electricity, you understand? And I can't carry. I don't know what NIB is doing to Freeport Power. They're going to cut my power off. I can't do that, and so nobody is telling me nothing.
Alton and Henfield say they are not the only persons who are on the program and are experiencing this problem. They are now calling on the powers that be to look into this frustrating situation.
Something has to be done. Someone needs to give us an answer, because if we work a full 52 weeks, a whole year, never miss a day, on time, excellent workers, why don't we get paid? Someone has to tell us something.
And I'm sure that the powers that be, they don't have a problem with going home thinking that they're like going to be off or have their rent. It is an aggravating attitude. Thinking that you have to go pay your light bill or your rent and you don't have the funds, you don't know where it is. That's not fair.
Well, we spoke with Melvin Seymour, the permanent secretary in the office of the Ministry of Grand Bahama. He told ZNS News that they are aware that some persons have not received their benefits. He says just last week, the Ministry for Grand Bahama met with NIB and the Ministry of Finance to sort out this matter. He notes that they are working on getting the list of persons revised, and they are hoping that everyone who was on the 52-week program and are eligible for the National Insurance Unemployment Benefit will be sorted out in the shortest possible time. Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, continues right after this.